Remember what we saw week 1 against Oregon, and then Georgia basically after that kind of hid away from the rest of the top teams in college football and kind of stumbled through the likes of Missouri and Kent. Well, that Georgia football team, they're still alive and well. They're still ready to play football, and they're still one of the best teams in the country. We already knew that. Is this the best team in the country? Georgia football looking good at home against Tennessee. Any defense that can shut down Tennessee to 6 points, 2 lousy field goals in one half of football, that is a damn good football team that we're seeing out there today. Leading into this matchup, we talked about it with our guy Steve Merrill from Wager Talk. He kind of lined it up in regards to what the stats, the metrics that evaluates the performance on the field had to say versus the fan reaction. The fan reaction is caught up in, and I'm not talking about Tennessee fans, Georgia fans, talking about the scope of college football fans, caught up in the story of Tennessee. It's a good story. It's a nice story. One of the great traditions in college football coming back. They haven't been relevant for 15 years. And the offense looks pretty. The offense is producing probably the Heisman Trophy winner in Hendon Hooker, probably. And all of those things are great. And Tennessee's been remarkable in what they had working for them, in addition to just sheer talent and offensive execution at home a few weeks ago against Alabama was, of course, Neyland Stadium, Knoxville. But so the betting public in this country took Tennessee more than any other game this year in college football, especially with those 8 or 9 points. But Georgia, defense, replacing all those NFL players on defense. Well, they showed up against Oregon in week 1 against a team that's the rest of the season super hot, super impressive. And now Tennessee, the rest of the season, super hot, super impressive. And Georgia's this good. Georgia's this good. They are at home, and it is only one half. And maybe Tennessee makes a counter punch. Maybe they've got a surge in them, a comeback. It's possible. But right now it's close to being 28-6. It's 24-6. It should be 26-6. Georgia scored a safety that I have no idea what was going on there. We'll get to that in just a second. But right out of the gate, Tennessee almost had an interception off of Stetson Bennett. First drive of the ball game, Banks had the ball hit him like right in the chest because he was leaping for the ball. And Stetson Bennett made one of those. And I've got tremendous respect for Stetson Bennett. I've turned into a Stetson Bennett apologist. But on that particular play, Stetson Bennett did what he's kind of known for by his critics and detractors through that kind of pass where he wasn't really paying attention or didn't see something or just thought he could throw the ball through somebody and should have been picked off. However, very soon after that, Tennessee got the first big break of the game. And actually, it wasn't a break that was given them. It wasn't a gift. It was created. That Latrell Bumpus forced fumble. That was a tremendous hit, tremendous strip of the ball. Tamorian McDonald recovered, and Tennessee was in business. They had the ball on the plus side of the field, and they've been a turnover plus team all season, and Georgia's been pretty much even in the turnover category. But the Georgia defense stood up tall. Tennessee got turned back, and they only led 3-0 at that point. So Tennessee gets the big break. They create it. They've got their offense in plus field position, only get the field goal. That was telling. That was big right there. And then after that, the Georgia passing game. The Georgia passing game led by Stetson Bennett. There was a statistic, and we could all come up with this stat because all you have to do is look at all the box scores and the throwing and rushing numbers in terms of numbers of attempts. But there's this thought out there that Tennessee throws the ball all over the field and that they're this high-flying offense, which they are. It's more about tempo. It's more about creativity, both running and passing, in style of play, in numbers of plays or in different looks, different sets, and knowing when to run the right play in the right situation and the play calls and the creativity and the tempo. It's not just throwing the football all the time. Love this stat. Georgia throws the ball 53% of the time. They have thrown the ball 50 more times this season than Tennessee. And Tennessee throws the ball 45% of the time. Georgia throws it significantly more than Tennessee. Georgia throws it 30-some more times than they run it. Tennessee runs it 50 or 60 or 70 times more than they throw it. Keep that in mind. And then we saw Stetson Bennett throw it, and he threw it downfield, and he threw it for big yardage. There was the shot to right after, should have had a touchdown pass to Darnell Washington, who is just a massive human. Did you see the shot of Darnell Washington, the 0 tight end, 5-star? Of course, everybody's a 5-star that plays for Georgia. We remember his recruitment, but he's on the field all the time. Doesn't catch a whole lot and should have had a touchdown reception, but he was lined up next to Brock Bowers. And Brock Bowers is a mountain of a human, 6'4", 240, something in that range, 250. Darnell Washington makes him look like nothing, Anyway, Washington drops the TD. Next play, Stetson Bennett gets flushed out of the pocket, beats the Tennessee defense to the pylon. Touchdown. Georgia goes up 7-3. Then we had that crazy punt. Georgia's punter, 75-yard punt. Did you see that rocket down the field? We saw some punts like that in the noon window, but the thing was, that was all caused by all that crazy weather in the Midwest, where there were 80-mile-an-hour winds howling all over the place. So on certain punts, you saw these rocket punts or you saw these weak punts. But this was just punter. 75 yards, and it angled out at the 1-yard line, and Georgia pinned Tennessee down at the 1. Then the play that I love watching these kind of plays in football, because it's when the defense steps up and makes a big play, and it's just kind of an odd play that you don't often see. So anyway, Hendon Hooker in the end zone. Jalen Carter just smacked him. Josh Heupel argued it was a pass. It was clearly a fumble. It wasn't even close. It was picked up by the Tennessee offensive lineman, number 76. Couldn't get out of the end zone. What is the replay review doing there? What is the crew looking at? So I understand the officials on the field not being able to get it right or know exactly, but that's why we have replay. What was that? That was just a blown call by the replay crew. I don't know what they were seeing. The rule is that the ball has to advance completely out of the end zone. And the offensive lineman for Tennessee did not come anywhere close to getting it outside of the end zone, let alone the entire ball outside of the end zone. And so Tennessee got a break there. They still had to punt. They punted out. Georgia gets the football, and bam, that time it's Ladd McConkey. He burns his guy. The Tennessee secondary is getting torched with big plays. Stetson Bennett throws a missile. Boom, touchdown, and it's 14-3. And then you had the Marcus Rosemary Jackson Saint play in the back of the end zone. Great catch. Stetson Bennett drills it through some traffic. Jackson Saint makes a great catch, gets the feet down, 21-3. Meanwhile, the Georgia defense keeps they give up a couple first downs per drive, but contain all the big plays, make big hits, pass breakups in the secondary, and there you have it. And then they run the ball right down the field again. Could have scored to make it 28-6, but let's credit Tennessee with the pass breakup in the end zone to keep it somewhat within range at 24-6. Should be 26-6. That's our score at halftime. So the game of the year in college football, not much of a game thus far. Tennessee obviously has the offense to be able to make a comeback. So let's not count them out yet. And let's look at your comments and see what we got here. Tony asks, are the Vols going to come back? My guess would be they're going to take a shot. My guess is they're going to be a surge like there was last week with Florida. Florida was down to Georgia 28-3, scored 17 points, made it a one-score game at 28-20 before they got knocked out in the fourth quarter with 2 Georgia touchdowns. I see something similar to that. Alex says, no, SEC dog, good to see you. One of our faithful viewers, go Dogs. Alex says, we are not coming to play. Well, if Tennessee didn't come to play for this game. Ballard, good to see you. Georgia National Championship 2021. Georgia fans are happy, and they should be. This is an impressive performance. Georgia's going to have the 2 most impressive wins of the year. Right now, they've got the most impressive win of the year. Tennessee's beaten the best team, Alabama, but now Georgia's going to have the 2 most impressive wins. Let's not call it a game, 24-6. We've seen stranger things, but with a team with this kind of defense and championship pedigree, Gary Danielson has pointed to it a number of times during the first half. It's hard to gauge or really, and I usually don't jump to the psychological portion of all this, but we know it's in play. I just don't try to pretend to know what's going on between people's ears. But Georgia's used to this. Tennessee pulled out that enormous win against Alabama at home with the surge, the energy of the crowd, all of that working in their favor, not against them. They did go to Baton Rouge and win that game. 11 a.m. Central Time kickoff. Death Valley. LSU wasn't playing well at the time. Fumbled kickoff right out of the gate. A muffed kickoff kind of took the crowd out of the game, whatever crowd energy there was at 11 in the morning. Not the same Death Valley kind of setting that we're used to. So Tennessee playing really its first hostile, fierce crowd since its emergence. So this could be Tennessee just kind of hitting a wall and experiencing something new and having to get by it. Maybe they settle in the second half, but this is not the team that you want to try to settle in or make a comeback on. The best defense in college football. Going into the season, Georgia, Alabama, Clemson were the teams that I was considering to have the best defenses in college football. It's that bunch right there. They've got the best defense in college football. Homegrown Cowboy, good call there. Not only the speed, athleticism, size, all of that, but yes, you got to figure out the offense as well. You've got to be disciplined in your assignments and understand that Georgia lost arguably its best defensive player this week. Nolan Smith out for the season. Tough break for him personally since he's a future NFL star, you would think, NFL player for sure. But Georgia doing this not just a half season later, and we shouldn't bring it up, but I am going to because we're deep into the 2022 season. But they did lose that truckload of NFL players and first-round selections, 5 off the defense. But, yeah, Nolan Smith gone from this defense. Yeah, SEC dog, they'll be building a new casino in Vegas. Yeah, all those people just jumped on, like 75% of the betting public for this game jumped on Tennessee. Tua Talks thought Tennessee was ready to go out on the road and at minimum play a game that justified being in the playoffs without making the SEC championship. And that's what, for you SEC fans, don't like to see if you're just rooting for the conference, is that this is the type game. If it stays in order, this is only 30 minutes in the books, but if it stays in this same spot, this is the type game that knocks out a potential, and it seems ridiculous to some, but it would have had to have been considered 3 teams from the SEC in the playoffs. If Tennessee comes back and makes this a game, if this finishes, they make a great rally, they lose 38-34, win the rest of their games and sit at 11-1 with a close loss in Athens, and then the Alabama win and all the other wins, then I'm not saying that the SEC should get 3 teams in the playoffs, but it has to be considered because the committee has been telling us for years, and they tell us certain things certain years and then change their minds. But this is fairly consistent that they don't look at the conference. Of course, they do look at the conference. Each individual on the committee looks at the conference. They know who's playing in what conference. So that's impossible to dismiss. But they say theoretically, and I believe this portion of it, they try to just take the 4 best teams in the country. Homegrown Cowboy as we kick off the second half. So we will get back to football and enjoy the second half. I do want to get through some of these. John, it's good to see you. Thanks for calling the other night. Would love to hear back from you again. Bilal says Tennessee's a pretender. Hang on. They beat Alabama. Let's not go crazy. Again, let's not respond and react to just all of a sudden somebody's garbage and somebody's trash because they have one bad half. Mike, good to see you. Smooth Criminal says if the Vols don't score to open this half, it's over. That's a reasonable comment. I don't totally believe it, but it's reasonable. Good start for the Vols. They come out with a first down run. Kirby's visor, Stead is mailman. Told you all, don't sleep on him. He always delivers in these big games. Well, that wasn't early in his career, but yes, you are right. Connor Johnson. So it's still Georgia and everyone else. Also Big Ten looking worse by the week. Also, I'm still sad. I don't know how the Big Ten's looking worse by the week. That doesn't exactly make sense. All the teams in the conference are playing each other. SEC officials have been awful this year. How about all the third down defensive holding for cheap first downs as well? There were a couple of them. I can't really say that I totally took that in. And somebody's down for Georgia. Who are we looking at there? Can't tell. All right, folks, we will get back to football. Just wanted to make sure that I acknowledged everybody and didn't see anything in here. Mike, thanks so much for reminding everyone to hit the like button. We appreciate that. We are doing our best to provide as much analysis as possible all the time. And if this one gets tight, we'll do instant analysis after the game. But if it turns out to be exactly what we're watching here, then this is what it is. It's Georgia's defense is awesome, and Stetson Bennett, again, is undersold. It's Robert Beal, the linebacker, who is down. Connor Johnson, Wisconsin and Michigan State beating Maryland and Illinois tells you everything you need to know. Back the pack. Okay, that's, again, that's a bit of a short-sighted narrative there. Bilal, Bama has been subpar all year. Georgia had a couple bad games against Kent State and Mizzou, yet Ohio State is supposed to win by 50 every week. Well, again, you may be listening to the wrong people. You may be listening to the wrong people. Only 2 teams in the nation, top 15 offense, defense, and special teams, Michigan and Georgia. G-Dog forever. Hunker down, dogs in the second half, and show them who the real number one is. Yeah, this is a team that's been built over. This is a roster that's been built over time, taking on a roster that hasn't. 4th and 1 play, huge. Woo! That could have been almost game over right there, but Tennessee gets the first down. So gutsy call by Josh Heupel. They had to get it. They got to keep the ball. And that great play in the backfield there on the kind of slide cut is what it was by Jabari Small to get the first down. Did you see Georgia collapse the line right in front of him, and he slid to the right and got the first down? Jalen Hyatt's down. But we're seeing a roster that's been built, a program that's been built over time. Kirby Smart, this is his 2016. This is his 7th season. So he built a national championship caliber team by year 2, but he was handed, obviously, a top 10 roster by Mark Richt, and he's done nothing but build it even higher. And Josh Heupel, what he's done has been remarkable. He took over a 3-7 team in shambles, culture in shambles, takes it over, boom, elevates to 7-6 with a strong bull showing, and then what he's got going here. But the depth, the layers of NFL ability is showing. Mr. Tua Talk says, if this ends 42-14 or something similar, does Tennessee get eliminated from playoff consideration? They should, yes, unless there's just so much chaos elsewhere. Yep, still 30 minutes to go. Tennessee's off to a good start, holding the ball, getting a first down. Connor Johnson says, can we please just have the top 4 conference champions in the college football playoffs? I like where you're going there, Connor, to a certain extent. While we do have 4 spots, I hate to try to eliminate one of the conferences, however, but that's what we've got working right now. Mike, absolutely, that will be disgusting to have 3 SEC teams in. They play in a conference for a reason. Yeah, there's so many reasons why there should not be 3 SEC teams in the playoff for a lot of different reasons. There's not enough data points for us to determine that the 3 best teams play in the SEC. Think of it this way. If chalk holds, Georgia wins this game, Tennessee flattens Mizzou and whomever else they've got, Vandy, Kentucky. Between Alabama, Georgia, and Tennessee, they will have a 1-point win in which they were outplayed against Texas, a Texas team that's probably going to finish 8-4, a good team, not a great team by any stretch. An overtime win against Pitt on the road, and Pitt's not a very good team. They're struggling with Syracuse right now. They've lost 4 games. Pitt's not a very good team at all. And a very impressive win over Oregon. So that's what you're going to have outside the conference for those 3 teams. That's just not enough of a sample size. The SEC's reputation, the SEC took care of business to a certain extent. Let me put it this way. As we see Tennessee driving 2nd-6. So still in the game, got to extend, got to score on this drive. They are taking up time here. Get the first down on the throw to the outside. Think of it this way. And a real MVP and I had this conversation the other night, and this is the way I see it. The SEC's proven to be the best conference year after year after year after year after year. This has been going on about 15 years. Some SEC fans would argue even before that, but it was an argument before that. It was close. Now it's not been close for about 15 years. Okay. Best conference backed up in a number of ways. Most importantly, by the results on the field, because that's what matters. But we are judging 2022 just on its own merit. The results of the SEC outside the conference are not overwhelming. They're good. They're slightly better than a few of the other conferences, but not by much. So basically, we went into the season believing the SEC is the best conference, and the results have not changed that position, but they also haven't been overwhelming. If we only knew about 2022, we wouldn't know that the SEC was the best conference because the results are slightly better than everybody else's, but not by much. But we put this year's evidence together with all the other years and the NFL and the recruiting and all that. And there we go. And we know what we saw in last year's playoffs. We saw two teams that were so much better than everybody else. And basically, man, unless Clemson can put it together and be a better team than I think, and look at this Georgia defense. Good Lord. Unless Clemson can put it together and be something that they've not shown this year, but we know that it's been there in the past. Anybody who hates the SEC, just pull for the best of two in the Big Ten to show up, because that's all the nation has against the SEC. That's it. Ohio State or Michigan. That's it. I didn't see it with TCU today, and I credit TCU, and I believe they should be in the playoffs if they win their conference. They should be in the playoffs if they win their conference, but that doesn't mean I believe that they belong athletically. Another Georgia player, Johnson, is down. Appreciate everybody being here. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll be back tonight. Call me at 11:30 is when we hit the air for our call-in show tonight after all the big primetime games, and it's going to be fun. Florida State, Miami, Clemson, Notre Dame, and of course, Alabama, LSU, among others. We will see you soon, and keep it locked in here at the Voice of College Football. Appreciate all of you. All right, got to address this ignorant comment here. John, don't make stupid statements, because that is completely untrue. I have the same position right this second as I had the other day when we talked about it. I rank based on resume. Get this through your freaking head. Get it through your brain. My rankings are rankings based on resume. I have said a zillion times this season, nor do I believe that TCU can compete with the best teams in the country. I do not believe that. But they are earning a playoff spot by winning games and winning a conference championship, if that's what they do. They still have to do it 4 more times. They've got to beat Baylor. They got to beat Texas. They got to win a Big 12 championship game. But if they do that, they have earned a playoff spot. That doesn't mean that they're going to not get killed in the playoffs. It doesn't mean that I don't believe that they can compete with those teams, just like I told you like 42 times the other day. So don't tell me that I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth, because that's an ignorant, asinine statement that is not true. I've been consistent about my position on TCU for weeks now, until something changes, like they go out and lose 3 games in a row. Then I'll say, well, they're nowhere close to being a top 5 team in the country or top 10 team in the country. So put the brain together and listen to what I have to say, and don't make things up. All right? Give me a call tonight.